Some wounds are harder to name than others because they come from the place you expected to be safe. The church, the community that was supposed to be different, that claimed to operate by grace rather than power, that taught you to forgive and trust and remain. The church can hurt you in ways that leave marks more complicated than ordinary pain. Because mixed into the wound is the question of whether the whole thing was real. If the people who said they belonged to God treated you this way, what does that say about God? And if you cannot trust the community built in His name, how do you keep trusting the name? Those are legitimate questions, and they deserve more than easy answers. Church hurt is real hurt. Leaders who abuse power leave real scars. Communities that use grace as a script while practicing something far colder behind the scenes do real damage to real people. If you have lived through that, the instinct to pull back, to protect yourself, to decide that organized religion is not worth the cost, that instinct is not a failure of faith. It is a survival response to genuine injury, and it deserves to be named rather than rushed past. But here is what is also true, and it matters to say it carefully. A bad room is not the whole house. Jesus made a statement in Matthew 16:18 that has never been revised. I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. Not that every church will look like what He intended, not that every community that uses His name will operate by His values, but that His church, the real thing, the body He is actually building, is indestructible. The wounds you received were not from that church. They were from people who borrowed the language without living the life. Peter writes to people who know exactly what displacement feels like. Scattered, marginalized, living as exiles in a world that does not welcome them. And he tells them who they actually are, regardless of how any particular community has treated them. You are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for His own possession. 1 Peter 2:9. That identity was not granted by the church that hurt you, which means it cannot be revoked by them either. What God has called you does not depend on whether any room of people recognized it. The author of Hebrews knew that the pull toward isolation is real, especially after wounds. He didn't dismiss it. He addressed it directly. Let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together. The reason he gives for staying is not obligation, but purpose, stirring one another up, encouraging, being present to people who also need what you carry. You were not designed to walk this alone, and the experience of being hurt by one community does not change your need for community, or theirs for you. Here is what this looks like in a real week. Give yourself permission to grieve the specific community that failed you. You do not have to pretend it didn't happen, or that the wounds were smaller than they were. But separate that grief from your view of God Himself, who was not the one who hurt you, and who has not changed. Ask Him to lead you toward the community He is building, not just any room that uses the right words. There are people gathering in His name who actually live it, imperfectly, messily, genuinely, and your story belongs among them. The grace here is that God's family is not limited to the room that failed you. His church is bigger than any building, wider than any denomination, more resilient than any leadership failure. You did not leave God when you left that place. You left a room of people who forgot what they were supposed to be. That is a real loss, and it is right to grieve it. But it is not the end of the story, because the one building the church is not finished yet, and he has a place in it that still has your name on it. The gates of hell have not prevailed, and neither, if you are willing, will this wound.